Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to lecture 10 of the lecture series Introduction to Interaction Design. In the last lecture, we had seen what role the emotions play when we design interactive systems and how we understand these emotions and what are behaviors of people, how are they important for the designers to integrate into the product or the system. In today's lecture, we will learn a little bit about the interfaces, that what types of interfaces are available and what are some of their roles when it comes to interaction design. Now, digital interfaces can come in several forms. They can be a simple command line interface, and it could also be a very complex graphical user interface. So, we have seen in one of the lectures earlier also that the command line interface typically involves typing commands into the console, whereas the graphical user interface is where we interact with the system with the help of menus, icons and through the windows. Now, digital interfaces are used in a wide area of applications. So, mobile devices, web applications, video games, digital media and many other software related works. So, this digital interface design is very critical to the user experience, as it can affect the usability aspect, the efficiency and the effectiveness of the device or the software application. So, there are many ways in which we can describe the different types of interfaces, but if we see, we can broadly club them into four broad categories. So, depending on the function of the particular interface. So, for example, whether it is intelligent, whether it is smart, adaptive. So, based on function we can club some of them together. The second is the interaction style. So, do we need command to communicate or graphics to communicate? So, what is that interaction style? The third is the input or the output. So, what kind of an input is required, whether it is a voice input or gesture input. And lastly, the fourth is the platform which they are designed. So, whether they are designed for mobile, they are designed for tablet, or are they a wearable interface. So, these four broad categories we can divide them in. Now, the first graphical user interface actually was we can say was formed through the first interface of the Xerox star, which we can see on the screen, the computer system on the right. Now, this was a very although it was designed in the late 1970s and early 80s, but it was a very much a step ahead of what people were used to earlier. So, it was a pioneering graphical user interface which was developed by the Xerox Corporation's Palo Alto Research Center. And how and why it was important was because it had some of those interactive features that we use currently, like drop down menus. It had point and click interactions, it had icons and it had overlapping windows. The cut, copy, paste function could be used, and also it was connected on the Ethernet. So, so we can see that how it was an inspiration for the current GUIs that we have and that we are using. So, the graphical user interfaces, they typically use icons, windows, menus and buttons which allow the user to interact with the digital device or the software. And this graphical user interface is designed to make it easy for users to navigate through the complex systems and complete the task. And in this particular way of functioning, the exact command is not required to be known by the user, but the command works in the background, and it need not be an input from the user's end. Now, some of the key components that I have already mentioned that are there in the GUI, they are icons. So, they are graphical representations like we have for file or folder or bin, recycle bin. Then we have windows. So, these are graphical containers that hold the user interface elements, where in that window we can identify these icons or menus or buttons. Then the third is our menu, so which is basically a list of options that is displayed when the user clicks on the menu. So, these menus can have even menus lower in the hierarchy underneath the main menu, and the buttons. So, these are also elements that the user can click and some action can be taken. So, the original GUI was called WIMP, WIMP, which stands for Windows, Icons, Menus and Pointers. So, it was basically primarily a boxy design, and the user interaction took place through the combination of windows, scroll bars, check boxes, palettes, panels and dialog boxes that appeared on the screen in various forms, and developers were constrained by the widgets. So, basically the number of control buttons that were there. So, those were the limiting factors of the original GUI, and now over time it has become more user friendly. Now, the command line interface, although it is probably used only by say software developers or people who are coding, but not so much by designers, but still command line interface still has some advantages over the GUIs. So, it provides users with direct access to the underlying operating system and its functionalities, and for designers sometimes it is not really required to be in touch with the underlying operating systems, but this allows them to perform a wide range of tasks quickly. So, it is a very fast way of the input and output mechanism. Now, some of the advantages that command line interaction has is speed. So, it is a very quick way of communicating with the computer as opposed to say the GUI, which could be a little bit more time taking. The second is the automation. So, CLI commands can be automated and scripted, which allows the user to perform batch operations. So, we had also looked at the batch operations in one of the previous lectures, where how the communication is done in a batch and then the output is received, and how there is no interaction really between the user and the system. And CLI is also useful when we are giving a batch operation, because it helps in automating the repetitive tasks. So, we do not have to repeat it again and again. So, it does it quite easily. And lastly, flexibility. So, the command line interface, they are highly flexible, and they allow users to customize and tailor their workflows to meet their particular needs. So, command line interface, you may recognize this from the computer. Sometimes we still use the quick command line, interaction is conducted with the system. Now, they were superseded by the graphical user interfaces, which incorporated, we saw some commands like menus, icons and keyboard shortcuts and pop-ups, text commands. Now, command line interfaces continue to have an advantage where the user finds them easy and faster to use as compared to the menu based system. So, there are depending on what function we are performing. So, command line interfaces actually sometimes are more efficient as compared to the other systems. And specifically when we are working on some softwares like AutoCAD or Rhino, where the command line input actually gives us a quicker response. Now, the next type of interface is the menu driven user interface. Now, you may recognize the image from that of an ATM. So, generally the menu based user interface has a set of menus which is organized in a hierarchy. So, the menu, after choosing the highest most menu, then there will be several other options underneath, and then maybe underneath there will be another layer of menus. So, the advantage of the menu driven user interface is that they are easy to use because they are intuitive. You do not have to make a lot of choice, or you do not have to fill a lot of options, but you have to select one option at a time. So, it makes it easy to use. The menus are generally organized very cleanly, very well. So, you can easily identify which function or where we want to enter, and there is always a way to cancel and get out of that particular step and go back to the original step. So, it is very clearly organized and easy and functional to use. The third is that the errors are reduced because we are just attempting one step at a time. So, even if something wrong is entered, we can always retrace our steps, but the chances of error here are reduced because of the user friendly organization of the menu. So, we can see that how these are applicable when especially we want a very quick response, like when a tourist is looking for some information in a new town. So, if they want to know that what can they do in the evening, so what are the options available, cinemas, theatres, museums. So, they can select the option they want, and then probably they will be provided with a list or area wise distribution in which area they are. So, then these menus can be, they can have sub menus and then another menu underneath that layer. The next interface is touch user interface. So, in a touch screen interface, which has become really common nowadays, we all use mostly the cell phones we are using nowadays have a touch screen, and even other devices like laptops or tablets that we use, they also have touch screen. So, they allow the user to interact with them by tapping, by swiping, pinching. So, this has made the interaction very easy, where earlier if you have seen that phone, the one with buttons. So, in order to reach somewhere or to find somebody's name in the address book, one had to go through that arrow button and click several times to actually reach the person whom we are trying to call or message. But now through a touch screen, it is very easy to just swipe and identify in the name in the address book. Now, some advantages of the touchscreen interface, it is that they are intuitive, so they are easy to use, and if somebody is already familiar with how the touchscreen interface works, then for them it is very easy. Then they are efficient, so they are fast, they are quick. We can find the right name or the right application very quickly as opposed to other older methods. Also versatile because we can use them in many different areas for mobile devices, in industrial applications, hospitals, in a lot of areas they have application. At the same time, they also have some limitations. So, limited feedback. So, touch screens, they provide limited feedback. So, sometimes the user is not able to ensure whether the input has been given or not, and sometimes they may keep on tapping on the screen, and that may lead to them logging out of the system, especially if we are interacting with an online banking platform or making a payment. It can also block our card at times for 24 hours. So, the user does not know that whether the information has been sent, because there is no feedback as such. When we are pressing a physical button on the phone, so we know that it has been pressed, but in this particular interface it is difficult to say. Then the visibility is a problem, especially when it is very sunny or we are using it outside, because in that particular condition we cannot really read it very well. And the lastly is hygiene, especially when it is a shared screen where a lot of people, like we saw how tourist kiosks or in hospitals people are using it, then hygiene can be an issue, because multiple people using it, how clean is it, who is cleaning it, all those questions become important. Now, voice user interfaces. So, users here can interact with the device or application by speaking commands or questions which are processed and interpreted by a speech recognition system, and the system then generates a response which may be spoken aloud by the device, or it may be typed across the screen. Now, so they are very common, we can see very commonly that voice assistants are there. We have Siri, we have Google, a lot of these platforms have these voice assistants, Alexa and all of these. And even in automated customer service systems, we see the application of the voice user interface. Now, some advantages are that of course they are a hands free operation. So, you do not need to type anything, especially for elderly people who may have motor functions which are limited. So, especially in their case also, and others as well, it saves time, because now you are just giving the input through your voice. So, the whole process of pressing the buttons and typing is eliminated, making mistakes while typing is eliminated. Then accessibility. So, they are accessibility, like I mentioned, in case of elderly, but also any other sort of impairment. The voice command makes it very much more accessible as compared to the traditional method of inputting. And natural language processing. So, they can use NLP, the natural language processing, and so this helps in interpreting the user commands and questions, and the communication becomes very natural. So, this is also being integrated with it. So, the interaction becomes more real, more human like. There are also some disadvantages of this. So, one is the limited functionality. Now, these may be less versatile than the other types of interfaces, especially for complex tasks or interactions that require visual feedback or detailed inputs. So, that is one disadvantage. The other is the privacy concern, that we nowadays we see around us that a lot of data leakage happens. A lot of people are concerned about how the information is going out, how is we talk about something one fine day and then we see an advertisement on some retail platform. So, the privacy concern becomes important here, that is something recording, is the phone or any other device that we are using, is it recording our conversation, or when we are mentioning our personal information, is it noting it down somewhere. And lastly, the accuracy, that this particular interaction may be less accurate than the other types of interfaces, and especially when we are in a situation like in our house, but maybe some procession is going in our neighborhood or some wedding is going on in your neighborhood, then in that case the accuracy will be decreased. And also, if somebody is having some kind of a speech impairment, in that case also this will probably not be the most effective way out. Now, next we come to the form based interface. So, the form based user interface is a digital interface that presents users with a structured form or set of fields where they have to input data or information. And the form based interfaces are generally used in web applications, in mobile apps and other software systems which require the users to input data or information. So, here we can see some of the forms, some examples of the forms. Now, here the users are presented with some fields, labels, instructions, and they are prompted to input data. Now, they can include a variety of input types like text fields, they could be drop down menus, they could be some check boxes. So, there are various ways in which the form based interface interacts with the user. So, these can be, depending on how they are created or how much thought has been put into it, they can be very easy for one to fill out, and one could fill it out very efficiently. But if it is not designed well, then it can also give certain can pose some problems for the users. So, for example, if may just give an error, but the user may not be able to figure out. This happens many times that the user is unable to figure out that what is he entering wrong. Sometimes they will not allow a number, but the error will not reflect that what was entered wrong. So, these are very effective ways of getting the input of the user, but they have to be designed well in order to get the correct information and to minimize any type of frustration that user may feel while using them. So, some advantages are consistency. So, they are consistent, predictable. So, we know that especially when there is a star, it is a mandatory field, etc. And so, for example, nationality, then we expect a drop down and then we can choose the country. So, it is quite predictable, and some of the functions or some of the areas that need to be filled are very objective. So, it makes it very quick process to fill it up. Then the next is the accuracy. So, they help to ensure data accuracy by prompting users to input information in a consistent and structured way. So, there will be a hierarchy that will be followed, and so it makes it very easy for the user to access it. And then customizability. So, they can be customized to collect specific types of information or to meet the needs of different user groups. Now, some disadvantages of form based UIs are that user experience. So, they can be less engaging because they are very pragmatic way of filling the information. So, there are just one after the other options. So, they can be less visually appealing than some other types of data collection or interfaces that are available. And especially, like I gave a few examples, if they are poorly designed, then the user experience gets even worse. Then next is the limited flexibility. So, they may be less flexibility in terms of how the user is interacting with them as compared to some other types of interfaces that are available. So, some complex tasks or interactions that require more open ended input, the user may not be allowed to enter those. So, they may have to select only from the given options, but the user may not be able to enter something from their end. So, that limits the flexibility and the information that the user can share with this. And lastly, the cognitive load. So, sometimes these form based UIs can increase the cognitive load on the user because of the way that they are presented, if they are not organized properly, or sometimes they require large number of fields for the user to fill. So, that can increase the cognitive load, and the user may actually get may just leave the whole process in between. So, becomes very important that how we design these particular systems, although they are very effective way of gathering the information that is required, and can be a very positive experience if some thought is added into it. Now, virtual reality interface is a very interesting type of interface, wherein generally a headset is worn by the user, and which kind of tracks their head movements and displays a 3D virtual environment, and this the user responds to this in the real time. So, they actually feel that they are in that virtual environment at that minute. So, this VR interfaces, we see that they are very commonly used in gaming, in training, these aircraft training simulators. So, lot of applications are there, and so they sort of give that immersive experience to the user, where they actually respond to the stimulus that they are being given in the way that a person would actually respond to if they were in the real situation out there. So, the user can interact with handheld controllers once they are wearing the headset, and they are in that virtual space. They can control with the handsets, they can control their movements and other things as designed by the interface. Then there are motion sensors also, or there can be some other input devices as well. So, we can see that the virtual reality has several applications. Now, advantages of virtual reality interfaces include immersion. So, we saw that how the user can feel a high level of immersion and can feel like they are truly in that area, in that real environment. Then the interactivity. So, the VR interfaces allow for high level of interactivity, and can support a wide range of interactions. So, ranging from simple gestures to complex movements and interactions. And third is the engagement. So, VR interfaces can be highly engaging and can help to create a sense of presence and excitement that is difficult to achieve with other types of interfaces. Now, some disadvantages can be that it is costly. The VR experience or the virtual reality user interface is expensive. So, the equipment is expensive, especially for high end systems that require powerful computers and specialized equipment. Then it is complex. So, they can be complex to set up and use, and especially for users who are not familiar with the VR technology. And safety concerns, because like we saw that it is a very highly immersive interface. So, the user may not be aware of what is going on around them in the real situation. So, it could lead to some potential hazardous situation. So, that is something one need to take care. But however, overall VR interfaces are very powerful and exciting, and they can create new opportunities in the area of gaming, in the area of simulations and training and other applications. Some other type of applications of other interfaces, we can see multimedia, shareable interfaces. Shareable interfaces are also a very interesting area of study, because it has been found that when people interact on a shareable device, so they learn better, and they also get to see the response of the other person quickly. So, for example, Figma is one such shareable software where several people can work on the same file at the same time. We will see some examples from Figma also in the upcoming lectures. And then we have wearables, robots and drones, and augmented reality. So, all of these other types of interfaces are also here. So, this brings us to the end of today's lecture, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you.